The film begins in the year 1846 in the slum of the Five Points, New York, where two rival gangs, the Anglo-Protestant Confederation of American Natives, led by Bill the Butcher, and the Irish Catholic immigrant Dead Rabbits, led by Priest Vallon, are preparing for a final battle to control the territory. At the end of the fight, Bill kills Vallon, resulting in the defeat of the Irish Catholic immigrant Dead Rabbits. During this time, Monk McGinn, who is in charge of collecting protection money from the residents, shows no concern for the sorrowful atmosphere and casually takes money from Vallon's corpse. Vallon's son, who witnessed his father's murder, grabs the knife that killed his father and buries it in a hidden spot. After the incident, Vallon's son is taken to an orphanage on Blackwell's Island. 16 years later, in 1862, Vallon's son, now known as Amsterdam, leaves the orphanage to return to New York. On his way, Amsterdam discards his Bible because his goal in returning to New York is to avenge his father's death from many years ago. Switching to Bill, in addition to being the most feared gang leader in New York, he is also supported by William M. Tweed, the mayor of New York, to help the government deal with the chaos in the city. Not long after, Amsterdam finally arrives in the increasingly crowded and dilapidated Five Points and goes to retrieve the knife he buried 16 years earlier. Shortly after, Amsterdam is attacked by two thugs who control the area, forcing him to fight them off. Unexpectedly, one of the thugs is his childhood friend, Johnny Sirocco, who recognizes Amsterdam from the necklace he carries. Johnny then takes Amsterdam to see the current state of the Five Points, which is now overrun with gangs from various immigrant ethnicities. While they are chatting, Johnny falls victim to a pickpocketing scheme by a beautiful woman named Jenny Everdeen, who pretends to bump into him. To cover his embarrassment, Johnny lies, saying he deliberately let the pickpocket take his wallet. That night, a fire broke out in a luxurious house, but strangely, the police seemed to be deliberately blocking the firefighters from extinguishing the blaze. Knowing this, Amsterdam and Johnny took advantage of the situation to enter the house and steal food. Shortly afterward, Bill arrived at the scene and chased away the police who were obstructing the firefighters, as if to demonstrate his support for the mayor. At the same time, Amsterdam saw Bill's face for the first time since Vallon's death. As the fire intensified, Amsterdam and Johnny hurried out of the house to save themselves. On another occasion, Johnny took Amsterdam to meet the local thug to gain freedom to continue his thefts. Unfortunately, Johnny ended up in a quarrel with the thug, who demanded that Johnny pay for protection. During the argument, a corrupt policeman, who used to be Vallon's bodyguard, suddenly appeared to collect his share of protection money. Seeing this, Amsterdam felt disappointed and angry at the betrayal by his former bodyguard. The next day, Amsterdam started gathering information about the state of the Five Points, learning that Bill celebrated his victory over Vallon every year at a Chinese restaurant. When Amsterdam met the restaurant owner, he found out that the owner also despised Bill for his oppressive behavior towards many people. With all the information gathered, Amsterdam decided to exact his revenge on the night of the celebration. To begin his revenge, Amsterdam planned to become one of Bill's trusted men to learn his weaknesses. Therefore, he and Johnny approached Bill to ask for a job with the gangster leader. At that time, Amsterdam and Johnny were tasked with robbing a ship that had just arrived at the dock. That night, Amsterdam and Johnny proceeded with the heist, but they were surprised to find another group of thieves already on the ship, looting it. Not wanting to return empty-handed, Amsterdam decided to take the body of a dead policeman, killed by the rival gang, to sell for scientific research purposes. The next day, Amsterdam reported the results of his theft to Bill, who appeared satisfied with Amsterdam's performance. However, Bill's bodyguard, McGloin, disapproved of Amsterdam's sale of the corpse. Annoyed by this, Amsterdam challenged McGloin to a fight. But Bill immediately stopped the fight after seeing Amsterdam's unwillingness to back down, even calling him a tough guy. On another occasion, Amsterdam was walking through the city and passed by a recruitment center for immigrants being sent to the Civil War. At the market, Amsterdam encountered Jenny again, who then stole a valuable necklace that had belonged to Vallon. Realizing this, Amsterdam quickly followed her, discovering that she was a professional thief who even disguised herself as a servant in a noble house to carry out her thefts. Finally, Amsterdam managed to catch Jenny to retrieve his necklace, but Jenny swiftly pointed a sharp weapon at his neck. Unafraid, Amsterdam deflected her and cornered Jenny, demanding she return his necklace. Cornered, Jenny unbuttoned her blouse and told Amsterdam to choose his necklace. To his surprise, Jenny had stolen many necklaces that day and hidden them in her clothing. After reclaiming his necklace, Amsterdam invited Jenny to walk home with him, impressed by her thievery skills. He also invited Jenny to become his partner in crime, but Jenny declined, stating that she didn't need anyone else for her operations. Sometime later, Amsterdam had become one of Bill's trusted men, accompanying him on various tasks. Bill even taught Amsterdam how to use a meat cleaver to incapacitate enemies. Due to Amsterdam's closeness to Bill, Johnny confronted him and questioned whether he had forgotten his intention to avenge Bill. On the other hand, Bill was meeting with William, who asked Bill to organize a public hanging as a show of strength to make his administration appear tough on crime in New York. William also gave Bill the freedom to choose someone to be hanged on fabricated charges. Following the mayor's orders, a public hanging of an innocent civilian was held in front of the citizens. Amid the crowd, Amsterdam saw a young boy who had lost his father due to the false charges brought by the government. This sight only fueled Amsterdam's desire to quickly exact revenge on Bill, who orchestrated such cruel scenarios. One evening, Amsterdam attended a dance party where Jenny was chosen as the queen and given the right to select her dance partner. Secretly attracted to Amsterdam, Jenny chose him, and they ended up getting intimate in a hay barn. During their time together, Amsterdam noticed a necklace Jenny was wearing, indicating that she was Bill's woman. Angered by this, Amsterdam harshly told Jenny to leave his sight. On another day, Amsterdam accompanied Bill as he patrolled New York, which was increasingly crowded with Irish immigrants who had come to America seeking a better life. At that moment, Bill revealed to Amsterdam that William planned to use the immigrants to secure votes in the upcoming election, so he asked Bill not to harm them. Despite this, Bill disagreed and continued to secretly massacre the Irish immigrants, whom he saw as parasites on his turf. That night, Amsterdam accompanied Bill to watch a theater performance when a man attempted to shoot Bill. Acting quickly, Amsterdam tried to protect Bill, though he was still shot in the shoulder. Amsterdam then killed the man, who had claimed to be a defender of the immigrants. Because of his actions in saving Bill, Amsterdam gained even more admiration from Bill and his group. On the other hand, all the praise seemed to make Amsterdam question whether he had forgotten his intention to seek revenge against Bill. In the midst of his uncertainty, Monk approached Amsterdam and warned him not to stray from his path. Unexpectedly, Monk had already discovered his true identity as Vallon's son. On the other hand, at the brothel, Jenny was seen tending to Bill's gunshot wound. This made Amsterdam angry, prompting him to return to his room. Shortly after Jenny finished her task, she went to Amsterdam's room, where he was upset with her. Both of them, who were secretly attracted to each other, couldn't resist and ended up sleeping together. Unbeknownst to them, Johnny, who had harbored feelings for Jenny, accidentally witnessed the scene. The next morning, Amsterdam was startled to find Bill in his room, watching Jenny as she slept beside Amsterdam. Bill then confessed that he had come to see Amsterdam as a son, and thus he was willing to let Jenny be with him. Hearing Bill's words, Amsterdam was once again torn about his plan for revenge against Bill. To cope with his doubts, Amsterdam practiced his knife-throwing skills, which he intended to use during his moment of vengeance. On the night of the celebration commemorating Bill's victory over Vallon, a grand party was held. Angry that Amsterdam had slept with Jenny, Johnny secretly informed Bill about Amsterdam's true identity as Vallon's son. Consequently, Bill called Jenny and used her as a knife-throwing target, causing Amsterdam to panic, although Jenny was eventually unharmed. During the climax of the event, Bill was about to perform the tradition of drinking flaming whiskey. Just before Bill did so, Amsterdam prepared to throw a knife at him. Unfortunately, Bill noticed and attacked Amsterdam first, revealing his true identity to everyone. The crowd was enraged upon learning that Amsterdam was Vallon's son. Shortly after, Bill's men hoisted the wounded Amsterdam onto a table to execute him. Despite many urging Bill to kill Amsterdam immediately, Bill decided to torture him instead. Amsterdam screamed in agony as a hot iron was pressed against his face, while Jenny screamed hysterically at the sight of the man she loved being tortured. After inflicting various tortures on Amsterdam, Bill finally released the young man who had tried to kill him. Worried about Amsterdam's safety, Jenny took him to a hidden place and called a doctor to help him. Sometime later, Monk visited Amsterdam and expressed his sympathy for Vallon's death many years ago, even though he was not a loyal follower of the priest. Before leaving, Monk then gave Amsterdam a folding knife that he had taken from Vallon's jacket pocket after he was killed. Unexpectedly, Monk had not taken Vallon's money in the past but had taken the folding knife instead. With this folding knife, Amsterdam renewed his determination to exact his revenge. Once he recovered from his injuries, Amsterdam resumed his revenge by demonstrating in front of a crowd, placing a dead rabbit's carcass in the 5-point square, and killing and hanging the body of the corrupt policeman who had betrayed Vallon. This sparked the fighting spirit of the Irish immigrants, who began to rally around Amsterdam. In a meeting with the immigrants, Amsterdam told them not to fear Bill's gang because they could form a large group, given the number of new Irish immigrants arriving in America. Although Amsterdam started building his group, he had to exclude Johnny for betraying him. Johnny then left the assembly house and eventually became a victim of Bill's gang. When Amsterdam found him, Johnny was tied up and helpless against a pole, and to end his friend's suffering, Amsterdam was forced to kill his childhood friend. Enraged, Amsterdam retaliated by attacking one of the leaders of Bill's gang. This made Bill furious, prompting him to gather all his men to attack the immigrants' headquarters. Unexpectedly, all the immigrants were ready to face Bill's group. Seeing the number of immigrants vastly outnumbering his own men, Bill decided against fighting that night. At the same time, William, also aware that Amsterdam had gained the support of the church and amassed such a large following. He then met with Amsterdam to propose a collaboration and sought the support of his followers for the upcoming election. Knowing this, Amsterdam demanded a reward in the form of appointing an Irish citizen as sheriff. Initially, William refused, believing there were no suitable Irish candidates for the sheriff's position, but after Amsterdam suggested Monk, William finally agreed. Sometime later, the sheriff election took place, with candidates, including Monk representing the immigrant community, starting their campaigns. Due to the increasing number of Irish immigrants, Monk won the election for sheriff. Bill, unwilling to accept his loss in the election, went to Monk's residence to challenge him to a duel, where the commotion drew a crowd of nearby residents in front of Monk's house. As Monk was now an official government officer, he declined the challenge and invited Bill inside to discuss matters diplomatically. Unfortunately, Bill's fury had reached its peak, and the gangster leader rejected Monk's offer of dialogue. Seizing a moment of Monk's distraction, Bill threw his axe at him. Not satisfied with merely wounding his rival, Bill approached Monk and brutally killed him in front of the gathered crowd. The next day, Amsterdam and his group escorted Monk's body to the cemetery. When Amsterdam encountered Bill, he challenged him to a duel. Without hesitation, Bill accepted the challenge. At the same time, New York City was in turmoil due to immigrant groups resisting forced conscription into the military. Tensions escalated further when news of the duel between Bill and Amsterdam, representing two opposing groups, spread. The immigrant community grew increasingly angry and began rioting in various parts of the city. The following day, as the scheduled duel approached, immigrant masses moved to attack police stations and the homes of New York's aristocrats. The situation deteriorated into widespread violence and looting across the city. In response, the military deployed armed forces to confront the uncontrollable immigrant crowds. As the crowd advanced, soldiers fired into the masses, resulting in many immigrant casualties, with bodies littering the streets of New York. In addition to deploying armed troops, the military attempted to quell the riots by bombing the 5 Points area, which further devastated the city, creating even more chaos and destruction. Meanwhile, Amsterdam was still searching for Bill, who suddenly launched a surprise attack from behind. The two of them exchanged blows until a bomb exploded nearby, interrupting their duel. Shortly after, Amsterdam emerged unscathed from the explosion, while Bill was injured by shrapnel from the cannon blast. Seizing the opportunity, Amsterdam killed Bill with the same knife that had killed his father, the late Vallon. With Bill's death, Amsterdam finally avenged the grudge he had harbored for many years. Shortly afterward, Jenny found Amsterdam and was relieved to see that the man she loved had survived. At the same time, chaos continued to engulf New York City, with numerous bodies strewn across various locations. Some were buried in mass graves, while others lay along the streets, allowing residents to identify and recover their relatives' bodies. In the final scenes of the film, Amsterdam is seen burying the knife next to Vallon's grave in Brooklyn, with a tombstone marked William Cutting, Bill's real name. As Amsterdam and Jenny leave, the skyline changes to modern New York City, with its towering skyscrapers and the cemetery, overgrown with weeds, begins to be forgotten. Moral lesson from the story: never steal a pickpocket's necklace unless you want to get invited to a dance party you can't escape. And remember, if your enemy is planning a grand celebration, it's probably not the best time to throw a knife at them.